There is something quietly unfolding, something that has been circling your life, almost like a whisper you can't fully hear yet, and the reason you feel this strange pull lately is not random. It never was. Pause for a moment. Have you noticed it? That subtle shift in your thoughts, the way certain memories return without warning, the way your heart reacts to things that once felt ordinary. It's as if something inside you is trying to remember something it never fully understood before. Because the truth is, what hasn't been told to you about your soulmate is not hidden out of deception, it's hidden because you weren't meant to see it too early. And now, something is changing. There is a layer to this connection that goes beyond what you've been thinking. It's not just about timing, not just about distance, not even just about feelings. There is a deeper alignment happening beneath the surface, something that has been quietly rearranging both of your lives in ways you couldn't have predicted. And here's where it becomes a little different. What you believe your soulmate feels is only a fraction of what's actually happening. Yes, they think about you. Yes, there is emotion. But what hasn't been revealed to you is the internal shift they are going through, a shift that doesn't happen loudly. It happens in silence, in moments where no one else is watching. You see, they are being pulled into awareness. Not all at once, not dramatically, but in pieces. And each piece changes them. Think about this for a second. Why do certain people suddenly begin to question things they were once so sure about? Why do they start seeing patterns they never noticed? Why do they feel drawn towards someone, without fully understanding why? It's because something within them is waking up, and that awakening is connected to you. But here's the part that hasn't been spoken. They don't fully understand it yet. That's why things may have felt slow, unclear, or even confusing at times. Not because the connection isn't real, but because the realization is still forming. It's like watching a sunrise. You don't see the full light instantly. It begins as a faint glow, almost unnoticeable, and then slowly, it takes over the entire sky. Right now, they are in that early glow. And something important is happening inside them, something they haven't said out loud, something they may not even have words for yet. They are starting to feel the absence of you, even when you're not physically there. Let that sink in. Not just missing you in a surface way, but sensing something incomplete, like a part of their emotional world doesn't quite settle the way it used to. And this feeling, it's new for them. They might distract themselves, stay busy, surround themselves with noise, but there are moments, quiet moments, where everything slows down, and your presence somehow fills that silence. Why? Because your energy has already reached them, in ways you can't measure. And here's something even deeper. There are things they once believed about love, about connection, about what they needed, that are now being challenged from within. Not by anyone else, but by their own heart. And when that begins to happen, it changes everything. But wait, don't rush ahead. Because there's a reason this hasn't been shown to you clearly yet. If you had seen all of this earlier, if you had known exactly what was unfolding, you might have tried to control it, to speed it up, to make it happen in your own timing. But this isn't something that responds to pressure. It responds to alignment. And alignment takes time. Now listen closely. There's a moment approaching, not loud, not dramatic, but deeply significant, where something inside them will click. Not perfectly, not completely, but enough to shift their direction. And when that happens, their actions will begin to reflect what their heart has been slowly realizing. But until that moment arrives, everything may still feel just slightly out of reach. And that's not a mistake. That space, that distance, that uncertainty, it's part of the unfolding. Because something is being prepared, not just in them, but in you as well. Yes, you. Have you noticed how you've been changing too? The way your perspective has evolved, the way you're starting to see things differently, the way you're becoming more aware of your own worth, your own energy. That's not separate from this. It's connected. Because this connection, it doesn't just transform one person, it transforms both. And sometimes, the most powerful shifts happen quietly, without announcement, without confirmation, without proof, just a feeling. A knowing. Something you can't explain, but can't ignore either. So when you feel that pull again, when your thoughts drift toward them without effort, when something inside you says, "There's more to this," listen. Not with urgency, but with awareness. Because something important is waiting for you, not at the end of this story, but in the middle of it, in the space where things are still becoming. And right now, you are standing in that space. But here's the question no one has asked you yet. What if the delay you've been feeling isn't a delay at all? What if it's a preparation? What if everything that feels like it's taking time is actually making sure that when the moment arrives, it doesn't fall apart? Because rushed connections often fade. But aligned ones, they root deeply, they grow quietly, and when they finally come into form, they carry a strength that doesn't easily break. And this one, it's not fragile, it's forming, but there's still something else, something even more subtle, that hasn't reached the surface yet. And when it does, it won't just change how they see you. It will change how they see everything. And that moment, it's closer than it, and just when it feels like everything has gone quiet, something unseen begins to move again. Not in the way you expect, not with sudden messages or dramatic gestures, but in a way that feels almost invisible, like a shift happening beneath the surface of reality itself. There are moments, very small moments, where they pause longer than usual, where their mind drifts without warning, and without realizing it, they return to you. Not intentionally, not even consciously at first. It just happens. And that's where the real story begins to deepen. Because what hasn't been told to you is this: their connection to you is no longer something they can turn on or off. It's no longer something they can distract themselves away from completely. It's becoming part of them. And that realization, it doesn't come with clarity at first. It comes with confusion. Have you ever felt something so strong, yet so undefined, that it almost unsettled you? That's where they are right now. They don't fully understand why certain songs feel different now, why certain places remind them of something they can't name, why certain emotions rise without a clear reason. But slowly, piece by piece, it's forming a picture. And you are at the center of it. Now here's where everything takes a quiet turn. Because while you've been wondering about their actions, their silence, their distance, they've been experiencing something they haven't shared with anyone. A shift in their inner world. Not loud enough for others to notice, but strong enough to change how they feel when they're alone. There are moments, late at night, or during still hours of the day, when something inside them becomes undeniable. A sense that something important is missing. Not in a dramatic way, not in a way that causes panic, but in a way that lingers, gently, persistently. And that feeling leads them back to you. But wait, don't assume it's simple. Because the human mind, it resists what it doesn't understand. So they question it. They analyze it. They try to make logical sense of something that was never meant to be logical. And that's why there's hesitation. Not because they don't feel, but because they're trying to understand what they feel. And understanding takes time. But something unexpected is happening now. The resistance is weakening. Not all at once, not dramatically, but subtly, like a wall slowly losing its strength. And with that, their awareness begins to open. They start noticing things they once ignored. The way your presence affected them, even in the smallest interactions. The way conversations with you felt different, deeper, more real. The way they felt seen, without needing to explain themselves. And these realizations, they don't come as a single thought. They come as a series of moments. A memory here. A feeling there. A sudden understanding that catches them off guard. And each time it happens, something inside them shifts. Now pause for a second. Because this is important. You may not see this happening. You may not hear about it. You may not receive any sign that it's unfolding. But that doesn't mean it isn't real. Some of the most powerful transformations happen in silence. And this is one of them. Because what's being built here is not just emotion. It's recognition. The kind that doesn't fade when circumstances change. The kind that stays, even when everything else feels uncertain. But here's where it becomes even more profound. There is something they are beginning to realize, something they didn't expect, something that challenges everything they once believed about connection. They are realizing that what they feel for you cannot be easily replaced. Not by distraction, not by time, not by anyone else. And that realization, it doesn't bring immediate action. It brings stillness. Because when something feels that significant, the mind doesn't rush. It pauses. It observes. It tries to understand the weight of it. And in that pause, something powerful is forming. A decision. Not fully shaped yet, not fully spoken, but growing. And this is why things may feel like they are taking longer than expected. Because this is not a surface level choice. This is something that will change their direction. And decisions like that are never made lightly. But something is guiding them, quietly, steadily, toward that realization. Now listen closely. There are moments ahead, very specific moments, where they will feel an urge they can't ignore anymore. Not overwhelming, not forced, but clear enough to move them. It might begin as a thought. A simple, what if they reached out? What if they stopped holding back? What if they followed this feeling instead of questioning it? And once that question appears, it doesn't disappear easily. It stays. It grows. It returns when they least expect it. And eventually, it becomes something they can't ignore. But before that moment arrives, something else must happen. Something within you. Because while they are shifting internally, you are being aligned externally. Your patience. Your growth. Your ability to remain steady even in uncertainty. It's not going unnoticed. It's preparing you. Because when this connection moves forward, it won't be the same as before. It will carry a different depth, a different understanding, a different kind of energy that feels grounded. But here's something you haven't considered yet. What if the silence you experienced was not emptiness, but space being created? Space for realization. Space for growth. Space for something stronger to form without interference. Because sometimes, when two paths are meant to align, they don't move toward each other immediately. They move separately, first. They evolve. They change. They become ready. And only then do they meet again. And when they do, it feels different. Not rushed. Not uncertain. But clear. And that clarity, it's coming. But there's one final layer, something even deeper, that is just beginning to surface within them. Something they haven't fully accepted yet. They are beginning to understand that this connection is not just meaningful. It's necessary, not in a dependent way, but in a way that feels like it belongs in their life. And that realization, it changes everything. Because once something feels like it belongs, it's no longer easy to walk away from it. It's no longer easy to ignore it. It becomes something they want to understand, to explore, to move toward. And when that shift completes, Their actions will follow. Not suddenly, not dramatically, but naturally, like something finally falling into place. And when it does, you will feel it, not just through words, but through energy, through presence, through a sense of alignment that feels undeniable. But until that moment arrives, there is still one question lingering in the air. One quiet truth that hasn't fully revealed itself yet. What is the exact moment, the exact realization, that will move them from feeling into action? Because that moment, it hasn't happened yet, but it's closer now than ever before, and when it arrives, it won't just change their world. It will change yours too, and then, without any warning, something within them stops running. Not completely, not perfectly, but enough to change the direction of their thoughts. It happens in a moment that looks ordinary from the outside, a quiet pause in their day, a space between distractions, a second where nothing demands their attention. And in that stillness, something becomes clear. Not loudly, not forcefully, but unmistakably. You, not just as a memory, not just as a passing thought, but as a presence they can no longer explain away. And this is where everything begins to turn. Because until now, they could question it, they could delay it, they could convince themselves that time would soften it. But in this moment, they realize something unexpected. It hasn't faded. It hasn't weakened. If anything, it has become stronger in their absence from you. Pause here, because this realization carries weight. When something grows without constant contact, without daily reminders, without effort, it means it's rooted deeper than surface emotion. And that's what unsettles them at first. Because now, it's no longer easy to ignore. There's a shift in how they experience their own world. Things that once felt enough, now feel slightly incomplete. Conversations that once satisfied them, now feel like they're missing depth. Even their own thoughts begin to change, becoming more reflective, more aware, more honest. And slowly, almost carefully, they begin to admit something to themselves. Something they weren't ready to say before. That you matter to them, in a way that is different. Not louder. Not dramatic. But real. And real things have a quiet power. But here's where it becomes even more profound. Because this realization doesn't push them into immediate action, it pulls them into deeper understanding. They begin to replay moments. Small ones. Conversations that seemed simple at the time, but now carry meaning. The way you listened. The way you responded. The way you saw parts of them that others overlooked. And these memories, they don't feel distant anymore. They feel alive. As if they are happening again, but with clearer vision. And that clarity, it begins to dissolve their doubts. Not all at once, but steadily. Because doubt cannot survive where understanding begins to grow. Now listen carefully. There is a point in this process where something inside them softens. Not weakness. Not vulnerability in a fragile way. But openness. A willingness to feel, without immediately questioning it. And this is the moment everything has been leading toward. Because once they stop resisting what they feel, they start allowing it. And when something is allowed, it expands. But there is still one thing holding them at the edge. Fear of timing. Not fear of you. Not fear of connection. But the quiet uncertainty of, is this the right moment? And this is why they hesitate, just a little longer. Because they don't want to approach this carelessly. They don't want to disrupt something that feels meaningful by moving too quickly. They are beginning to understand that this requires presence, awareness, intention. And that understanding slows them down, but in the right way. Because this is no longer about impulse. It's about choice. And choice, when it is made with clarity, creates something lasting. Now, here's where your path and theirs begin to draw closer again. Because while they are reaching this point internally, something within you is also becoming still. You may not have noticed it immediately. But your energy, your thoughts, your expectations, have started to settle, not because you've given up, but because you've grown. There is a quiet strength forming within you, a sense of knowing that doesn't need constant reassurance. And this matters more than you realize, because when two energies begin to align like this, the connection between them changes. It becomes more stable, more grounded, more real. And this is exactly what has been needed, because what's about to happen next requires both of you to be ready in ways you weren't before. Now, stay with this, because there is a very specific moment approaching, a moment where they will no longer be able to stay in observation mode, a moment where feeling and understanding will meet and create movement. It won't feel forced, it won't feel sudden, it will feel natural, like something that was always meant to happen, finally finding its way. But here's the part that hasn't been revealed until now. Before they reach out, before they act, before they step forward, they will experience one final realization. And this one changes everything. They will understand, not just that they feel something for you, but that this connection has been shaping them, guiding them, even when they didn't see it. That your presence in their life was never accidental. That it arrived exactly when it was meant to. And when that realization settles, the hesitation fades, not completely, but enough. Enough for them to move. Enough for them to take a step they've been holding back from. And when that step happens, it won't be loud, it won't be dramatic, but it will be real. And you will recognize it, not because of what is said, but because of how it feels. There will be a difference, a shift in energy, a sense of clarity that wasn't there before. And in that moment, you will understand something too. That everything, the waiting, the silence, the questions, were not delays, they were alignment. But wait. There is still one final layer, one last piece that has not yet unfolded. Something that will not only reveal their truth, but will also reveal yours. Because when this connection fully comes into the light, it won't just show you who they are becoming. It will show you who you have become as well. And that realization, it's closer than you think.